let's check out the top 10 team rankings. This is very early on in the process, but Notre Dame sitting at number 1 with 13 total commits. That's the most in the country. You'll notice a typical trend that we see with recruiting rankings. Half of the top 10 is made up of SEC schools. Some early momentum, though, for Clemson. We'll talk about all of those classes. Starting at the top, though, with Notre Dame, a spot that an SEC school has held for the last 16 cycles. Georgia, fresh off their victory in the 2024 class. We have a long way to go. But, Andrew, what do you like about how they've built this class early on?
I love the defensive backs. It starts with Ivan Taylor. I think he has some of the best football IQ we have seen so far in the 2025 cycle. Obviously has some NFL bloodlines, but he's a playmaker on the back end. They've paired him with Ethan Long, who reminds me a little of Kyle Hamilton. I'm not saying he's the athlete that Kyle Hamilton is, but similar frames. You turn on the tape, they move similar. I think he's going to offer some versatility on the back end. And they also got Cree Thomas committed out of Arizona, multi-sport athlete. He has shined on the 7-on-7 circuit. I think they're going to try him out on the perimeter. So I love the defensive backs. I also love this tight end, James Flanagan. Two-way snaps, legit hockey player. Reminds me of Ben Sinnott, tight end out of Kansas State. Also had a hockey background. He's going to be selected in the upcoming NFL draft. I think James Flanagan is a name to know. Also, shot put, discus, excellent markers there. And then you got to talk about Deuce Knight, the quarterback. This might be the most athletic arm in the 2025 cycle. 4.5 on the lasers in the 40-yard dash, over a 40-inch vertical jump. He's ran for 1,600 yards. Needs to keep improving as a passer. But, man, if Deuce Knight hits, that quarterback room in South Bend, they keep replenishing it with the high school ranks and the transfers. It's something to get excited about. Deuce Knight, better spark score than Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts.
Wow.
It says a lot, Tom.
It's kind of a big deal.
What do you think of this class?
Honestly, they're not even done yet. I mean, I know this is a guy that you love, Andrew. Derek Meadows, one of the top receivers in America, an absolute freak. We saw him at Battle Miami. He was awesome. So I really think that they got a great shot there. Keep an eye on Bama, Georgia, Florida, all offered. Another guy to watch off the edge is Damian Shanklin, an in-state kid, top 247 guy, also considering Ohio State and Michigan. But my crystal ball is on Notre Dame. I feel really good about them getting that done. And then lastly, offensive tackle Jack Lang, one of the top players in America, a guy that I think, I'll stay in my lane, but a guy that I think is going to be stock up all the way through. He's a guy that I look a lot and see a lot of similarities to Joe Alt, who's going to be a first-round pick. So lots to like there. I think Notre Dame's in a great spot. Another crystal ball I have on the Fighting Irish.
Okay, well, yeah, a lot of crystal balls in the Fighting. This is shaping up to be a very large class if they continue at this pace, but it is number 1 right now as of February. Number 2, LSU. Just 9 commits, but 2 of those guys are in the top 5, and they're number 1 at their positions. I mean, you've got quarterback Bryce Underwood, wide receiver DeCorian Moore. What's the potential for that duo? No Tigers fans are looking forward to seeing that one day.
Think about Joe Burrow, and then take your pick of the 2019 wide receivers. Ooh, that little
good
duo.
Options there.
Yeah, when you had Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, or Terrence Marshall. Look, DeCorian Moore is a lot smaller than those guys. He's got a different little skill set. We saw him at the Battle Miami tournament. He's been excellent the past 2 years at Duncanville High School. He's a chunk play machine, creative in the slot, can get open, and more importantly, he gets into the end zone. I think that is so important for the wide receivers. So we're big fans of him. Ryan Williams, reclassified, signed with Alabama yesterday. So DeCorian Moore is wide receiver 1. I think it's going to take a lot for him to move off of that spot. And then we talk about Bryce Underwood. Elite resume at this stage. 40-2 as a starter, 120 touchdown passes, and then you get around him, not just watching him on film, but having seen him on the camp circuit, having seen him in the offseason tournaments. It's the type of quarterback where you're like, okay, franchise frame. This is the guy I want my team to be around. I want him in the huddle. All of 6'3", 200 pounds. So that duo, if Brian Kelly, Joe Sloan can hold on to it, I think there's going to be some fireworks in Baton Rouge, much like that 2019 offense for the Tigers.
I'll never forget watching Underwood in Atlanta when we were there together and it was freezing cold. This dude was next level. So fun to watch. But I actually recently tossed in a crystal ball for LSU. It's not just about Notre Dame. 4-star running back James Simon, feel really good about the Tigers. I think they're going to get it done. But you also mentioned 2 top 10 players already committed. How about a third? Another guy you probably like, DJ Pickett, one of the top players in the country. I have no idea what position he's going to play in college. You could probably shed a better light on that, but I feel like they have a real shot there. I'm watching Clemson, Miami as well, but LSU could absolutely land Pickett, and what a trio.
Yeah, Can you shed some light on where you think Pickett's going to play?
I don't know what he is, but I want him on my team if I'm a head coach or I'm a GM at the next level. Tom, me and him saw him at Battle Miami. He's listed at 6'2". He's one of the rare kids where it's like, no, he's taller. He might actually be 6'4". So some schools are saying wide receiver. I think he might be corner, safety. I don't know, DJ Pickett. He's kind of like a one of one.
I feel like we see some guys like that come through the class. We're like, we don't know where they're going to play, but on the field.
That's what makes it fun.
Exactly. And the evaluation process is, I wouldn't say just beginning, because I know you've watched a lot of these guys, but it is not over yet. How about Clemson? They have been so hot this month, landing 2 top 100 players in edge Ari Watford and defensive lineman Isaiah Campbell. How can those guys maybe help the Tigers get back on track in recruiting?
Well, I don't want to sound like a broken record, okay? We all know Clemson doesn't go in the transfer portal, so they got to hit on the high school recruits. So I'm going to talk about Dabo Swinney and his offseason staff additions. He brings in Nick Eason to coach the defensive line, Matt Luke to coach the offensive line. That's him going outside of his bubble. And you look at this Clemson recruiting class, that's where the strength is, in the trenches on both sides of the ball. Ari Watford, Isaiah Campbell, Amari Adams, big functional pass rushers. Then defensively, or offensively, Brandon Jacobs, Eaton Ware, Jalen Beckley. Those are large, athletic offensive linemen. And the thing is, when a kid commits to Clemson, and this has been the case for a while now, they normally don't waver and decommit. They're not going to take visits to other schools. So I think the fact that Clemson right now sitting number 3, this feels like it could be a top 10 class because only more kids are going to come on campus for junior days. I remember Clemson just a few years ago started doing those summer official visits. Their recruiting class is normally in place by the 2nd or 3rd week of June. So this is an excellent start. And I think it starts with those 2 new assistant coaches, Nick Eason and Matt Luke.
I mean, you mentioned the trenches. I've been contemplating kicking around a crystal ball for offensive guard Chauncey Gooden, who's a top 175 player in America. So, again, another big boost for them. But I also like them on the back end of the defense with Jordan Young, a safety that I absolutely love. I believe Anna Adams actually tossed in a crystal ball for Clemson recently. So I feel real good about that one. I might join her on that. And then another guy is cornerback Jonte Gilbert, a top 50 player. Again, I think Clemson's setting the bar. I think they're in a good spot there. They just got to seal the deal.
Right. I know I said that Clemson was really hot in the trail right now, but I mean, nobody can touch what the Buckeyes have been doing, especially last month. Fantastic start to 2024. 3 players in the top 15. You are reading that right. Andrew, what are the highlights in this class early on?
It's the corners. I think this could be the best corner haul since Alabama got Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold back in the 2021 cycle. Devin Sanchez, Naeem Offord, both early 5 stars for us. I got a ton of Ohio State fans in my mentions saying that we don't rank these Ohio State kids high. That's a bit crazy to me.
I see some high rankings.
Yeah, 2 5 stars already at this stage. That's a little bit wild, but Sanchez and Offord, we went back and forth in our November update. All right, who is corner 1? Opinions were split behind the scenes at 24/7 Sports. I think this battle is going to go all the way through All-Star season, and we'll figure out. But these guys are the real deal. Height, weight, speed corners. They can play out on the perimeter. And then they have Blake Woodby committed. Probably my favorite inside corner. Saw him in person twice this season in pads. Also at the Future 50, was in the fastest man competition there. So you got those 3 guys. And then the quarterback, Tavian St. Clair, number 3 QB for us right now. We stamped him early. I think it's an excellent evaluation by Ohio State. 6'3", 210 pounds. Love how he layers the football. He's athletic, can throw on the move. They bring in Julian Sayin, Aaron Nolan. They got the other transfers there. Tavian St. Clair is a name you need to know because I think he can win games on Saturdays, and I think he could potentially play on Sunday. So excellent start in the secondary and then at quarterback.
I actually remember questioning Ohio State whether they should have taken Ryan Montgomery or St. Clair, but the more I watch, your evaluation, Ohio State's evaluation, it's completely spot on. I love the kid. But everybody knows I got a crystal ball in for Ohio State. I'm kind of going against the grain for Nate Roberts, 4-star tight end. Oklahoma they got the family poll, and there's some other schools involved, Oregon as well. But feel really good about the Buckeyes adding to that class. But you talked about the secondary. Dorian Brew. I mean, the rich get richer. If they get this one done and beat the likes of Georgia or Texas A&M and some others, I mean, what a haul on the back end of the defense for Ohio State. I mean, I already said it, but rich get richer, and they're not slowing down anytime soon.
I just think about those positional battles in practice between the wide receivers that they have at Ohio State and some of these cornerbacks coming in. So they're only going to get better when they arrive at Ohio State. So already a pretty awesome class there. You mentioned Oklahoma potentially battling with Ohio State for some prospects. This is a weird sentence to say, but they're the only other SEC school in the top 5 at this stage. What do you like about the 2 guys that we have highlighted here, 2 guys currently in the top 247?
Well, I would have tripped up and said that they're still in the Big 12 as well. Oklahoma's class, this is what stands out to me. They have 6 commits, and they're all 6 in-state commits, and only 2 of those guys are inside the top 247. They continue to clean up at Carl Albert High School, which has won 7 state titles in the past 8 years. Ryan Fogier, offensive lineman, recent commit for him. I love them. I think Oklahoma does an excellent job when it comes to the trench play, identifying these big athletic offensive linemen that just seem to be figuring things out. You look at him, he launches out of his stance. I think there's some versatility, can play, 3 or 4 different spots on the inside for the Sooners. And then how about Marcus James? He's how you want a mid-skill to look. Play some tight end, play some linebacker. Sounds like the Sooners want him on the defensive side of the ball, but his offensive tape is fun. He's got some big man twitch, or I shouldn't say big man, but mid-skill twitch. A name to know, one of the more unique prospects we've come across in 2025 in that region.
Oklahoma's got a really good class, but I actually think it could get better if there's 3 guys that I'm keeping an eye on in the top 247. Edge Max Granville, really good player that I think they could land. I think they're probably in the top 2. You got cornerback Kobe Sellers that I think actually Oklahoma is the favorite for at this point. And then lastly, safety Jonah Williams, a top 50 prospect. Just a big-time talent. You guys have him ranked great. Sooners fans need to be fired up. But all 3 of these guys, which I could see it happening, man, what a boost for that team.
Yeah, looks like they need it, right? Only in the top 5.
Only in the top 5.
Seem to be doing all right so far. Guys, this is awesome. It's like peanut butter and jelly. We got the scouting. We've got the recruiting intel. So if you've not already, go ahead and hit that like button because I am liking this conversation. Okay, so we talked about the top 10 teams. Let's show you them one more time. Once again, very early on in the process. Ohio State, though, is that team that has the highest per player ranking. So keep an eye out for the Buckeyes. But I want to know, Andrew, before we move on to talking about some of these players, who's a team maybe outside this, again, early top 10 who could make some moves this cycle?
Oregon. Dan Lanning, the Danimal. They just finished number 3 in the 2024 cycle. Just had a huge junior day as well. Tons of prospects from all around the country. Look at the current landscape on the West Coast. USC, there's question marks. Chip Kelly, is he at UCLA? I don't really know. We talked a lot about the Bruins earlier this week. The door is wide open for Oregon to get the top prospects on that side of the country. And then Dan Lanning has shown he's not afraid to go to the East Coast, to get into Florida, to go into Texas as well. 2 names I'm keeping an eye on because I think it would say a lot if the Ducks can get them. Michael Fasusi, top 247 offensive tackle out of the Lone Star State. I think he's a prototypical potential franchise left tackle on the left side. And then, Dan Lanning went and saw David Sanders, the number 2 ranked prospect. At this stage, if Oregon is involved with a legitimate blue chip talent, I think you have to consider them, especially if David makes it out there for a visit. So I'm keeping my eye on Oregon. I think we're going to have a better idea of who realistically is a target for them here in the next couple of weeks.
I'm going to go just outside the top 10, and we're going to look at the number 11 team in the country, Tennessee. And it's not because we're in Nashville right now, but I feel really good about the Volunteers class. I really like what they're doing. I actually dropped a story today on 24/7 Sports about top 100 receiver athlete Cameron Sparks out of Chattanooga. Tennessee, Georgia, Auburn, Miami, all involved. I actually think it's going to be really hard to beat Tennessee. I actually considered before the show putting in a crystal ball for the Volunteers, talking to Ryan Callahan. He feels really good about Tennessee as well. And another kid right here in the backyard in Nashville, Ethan Utley, top 247, 4-star defensive lineman, just visited Tennessee. He's also got Michigan, Oklahoma, Texas also in play. But again, as long as Tennessee continues to push, do the right things, and nothing goes wrong, it's another guy that I struggle to see picking anything other than the Volunteers.
Already having success in state and within
That's key.
Where we are right now, here in Nashville, Tennessee. Tennessee having success.